welcome to the Franklin Regional Council of Governments meeting for Thursday, October 20th, 2022. So we've welcomed a couple members, and we have heard an interesting question and something to think about from Marguerite Willis. We'll move on to adopt the minutes from July 21st, 2022. We have a motion from Tom. We have a second.
I heard Tom.
With a second from Paul. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Roll call.
Aye.
Oh, we do have a roll call
I'm so
vote. Let's
sorry,
have a roll call
folks.
vote.
So take yourself off mute, please, folks. Okay, Ashfield,
Yes.
Bernardston,
Yes.
Buckland, Charlemont,
Abstain.
okay. Coleraine, Conway, Deerfield,
Yes.
Irving,
Yes.
Gill,
Yes. Yes.
Greenfield, Polly,
Yes.
Heath's not here, Leverett, it's not here, Lyden. Yes. Monroe, Montague,
Yes.
New Salem,
Abstain.
Northfield, Orange,
Yes.
Rowe, Shelburne,
Bob had to step out.
okay.
Yep.
Shrewsbury,
Yes.
Sunderland,
Yes.
Warwick's not here, Wendell, Whately,
Yes.
Bill Perlman,
Yes.
Jay,
Yes.
and Emily. Yes. Okay, that passes with 2 abstentions.
Okay. So council update, FY23 council meeting dates. So mark your calendars. The next council meeting will be on January 26th, 2023. When we'll vote on the budget proposal. Although we typically meet on third Thursdays, we'll meet later in January to accommodate those who wish to attend the MMA conference annual meeting in Boston. I hope to see many of you there. So it'd be nice to get back there and be back in person again and see people up there. The final meeting for FY23 is April 23rd, which may be an in-person meeting if the legislature does not again push back the open meeting law requirements yet again. So it really depends on how that.
23rd.
It's listed as the 23rd of April. Is that a Saturday?
Sunday.
It's a Sunday.
Of course.
So we expect you to be in Sundays now.
The
If you
third,
hadn't noticed, we're getting a little rough around here. So
the third Thursday.
third Thursday of April, you said? So that'd be the 21st. You all. So let's see, Finance Committee vacancy. We still have a vacancy on the Finance Committee. It's a really vital committee for the FRCOG. So if anybody wishes to step up, or we're going to pull a name from a hat pretty soon. So who's not here? Yeah, who's not here? So please, if somebody can help fill that vital role, that would be great. And my last update is our esteemed council member, Bill Perlman, is retiring. So after more than 30 years and more than a dozen roles with the FRCOG, Bill will be retiring from his dedicated service at the end of December. This is Bill's last council meeting, and we will celebrate and acknowledge Bill's service at the end of the meeting. So it'll be a special time. So I'll roll right into executive committee update from Bill.
The executive committee has been involved with a road action for the town of Orange. We are discontinuing a county road layouts of Holtier Road that runs along Lake Mattawa. There are several different sections of this, and we are discontinuing all of them, and the road will be accepted by the town, and it will become a town road. So there really is, the change will be transparent as far as anybody else is concerned. we talked about and agreed to take a more active role in legislative advocacy. There's a lot that goes on in Boston and that affects us either directly or indirectly. And we felt that we should have more updates from that and to make sure that we express opinions on those pieces of legislation that will affect us out here. As you know, that out here is not always recognized by the folks in Boston. We have an after action review by Ardent Decisions Group, and we're looking over that and as it plays into our projects now of restructuring, and that also includes new people and succession planning. Lastly, we convened as the Economic Development District Governing Board. And we voted on new SEDS committee members and alternate appointments. This is a role that the executive committee has taken over the last year or so. And that's it.
Thank you so much.
May I?
Yes, please.
Yeah, so just, Bill, as you were making note of the executive career committee focusing more on legislative advocacy,
Yeah,
I wanted you to know that the STAM, the Small Town Administrators of Massachusetts organization, has also just kind of organized a committee that's focused on legislative advocacy.
great.
And
good.
so,
I'm glad to hear
there's
that.
a number of Franklin County people who are pretty, have their feet in that pool.
Yeah,
And so we'd be happy to liaison and,
Yeah.
until there's like more official channels, certainly feel free to let me know if there's some activity with that committee where we can just sort of connect and discuss priorities
yeah,
together.
it's an excellent idea. We certainly were aware of large pieces of legislation that affected us, but there's small things that sneak in that often go unnoticed, and we want to try to pay some more attention to that. We know we don't have votes and we don't have money out here, but we still think that either they should start recognizing us or stop advertising our maple syrup.
Tom, or, oh, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Respectfully, I'd like to offer a contrarian review or comment on this. You're already asking local officials to do a lot, and now we're expected on a regular basis, write this letter, do that, lobby for it. And our legislators are spending a lot of time going around meeting all of us at various functions, Friday at Amherst in the morning for the Mass Municipal breakfast. There's the constant stream of meetings to go to the legislators. I would suggest that the Adam Hines and Representative Blais' report on sustainability of funding rural schools is more than proper documentation for a lawsuit against the Commonwealth on how they fund schools. That's what precipitated the 90s ed reform. It was the consolidation of two lawsuits, one from 1978 under Governor Dukakis and one in the early 90s, McDuffie. And that's what brought about ed reform. I know how much time I personally spent trying to lobby, but we're also trying to do our jobs, whatever they may be. And if we take this on, we're just contributing to the circus. That's my comment.
Before I get hung, before I get a chance to escape, what I was talking about is not necessarily drafting town membership, but the council itself reporting to the executive committee, and the executive committee making comments or requesting some kind of input into the legislation. If it's something large and important enough, we will certainly bring it to the council meeting, but I am not suggesting that we lay on more responsibility to the individual towns.
I appreciate that, Bill. My viewpoint is a little different. We constantly in a position where we have to watch them closely to see how badly we're going to be hurt and then lobbying, and we don't have the votes. The 50 to 60 million that's needed to properly fund rural schools is about 1% of the state budget. And Franklin County is about 1% of the state population. I'm rounding numbers here. We shouldn't have to work this hard to get what is called our fair share.
No question, but paying more attention to it, I think, is actually helpful to us rather than ignoring it. We are capable of leveraging some pressure on them, and we can't know what they're doing to us if we don't find out before the bill passes.
Ellen's got her hand up.
Yeah, I just have a point of order. Please, whoever is there, identify yourself before you speak. We cannot read your little cards and we have no idea who's speaking.
Thank you for that message and reminder. Tom Feidenkevitz.
Tom Feidenkevitz, Alan. I personally, Bill, believe that our voice should be heard in as many ways as possible. My only question is who determines that it's a group that the executive council is representing and not a personal position? And how is that? And if there's advocacy for the council, how does that come and how is it reported back to the council as a whole?
Well, we have to have some trust and some faith that people appointed to the executive committee are acting the region as a whole. And the report of the executive committee back to the council at our meetings is one of the ways of reporting back as to what we have done. And what letters may have been written. Some of these things happen quickly. We can't wait 3 months or 2.5 months to respond. And I think that our staff certainly have a pretty good idea of what will affect us positively or negatively. And I'm not saying that we're going to go en masse and sit in at the State House. We're going to make some phone calls. We're going to write a letter. We're in very close touch with our legislators now. And this will just reinforce making sure that they hear from us.
Thank you. So we'll maybe,
It's not a lot
See
different
where
than
the
what we're already doing.
right, and maybe we can see an update next meeting to see how things are moving along and see how you can liaison. Steve Ellis?
Yeah, Steve Ellis, Montague. So I would just say this is a great topic for, like, let's put it on the agenda and have a conversation about how we determine what the bumper rails are there, because we don't always have the same interest.
Yeah.
We often do. So
Often, yeah,
thanks.
for sure. Thank you. So moving on to our executive director update. Linda,
Hi,
welcome.
everyone. Sorry, I'm upstairs. I have COVID.
No.
I snuck in the back so I could get into my office and run the PowerPoints later.
Thank you, dedication.
Thanks. So under advocacy, the other thing to talk about is that we are actively we run the Rural Policy Advisory Commission, and the Rural Policy Advisory Commission will work closely with the small town administrators and several other groups on advocacy and legislative priorities. I've been asked to be part of the Massachusetts Cybersecurity Planning Committee. This will be $85 million of cybersecurity money coming into Massachusetts, 80% of which must be spent directly or indirectly in municipalities. 25% of that must be spent in rural communities. So I'm pleased to be on that committee and hopefully making a difference in how that money is spent locally. We did create a new mission statement after our discussion last quarter. because we are already an hour into this meeting, it's on page 2 of your council updates. We are working on a new watershed resiliency plan, this time for the Clesson Brook watershed. Please keep an eye on that. We are the only regional planning agency in Massachusetts to receive an economic resiliency implementation award from the Federal Economic Development Administration, which gives us another pot of funding to work on economic development, economic resilience, marketing of our county, thinking about population decline, etc. So that is exciting. There are changes to purchasing thresholds. You will find an explanation of that on page 4 of your council updates. FCCS, good news is that we have disposed of the Royalston Tower. We transferred ownership of that tower, and EOTS, the owners of the Comier system, wants our space on the New Salem Tower. So that's 2 of our towers taken care of with no decommissioning cost for us. So that's good. The towns of Northfield, Gill, Montague, and Irving, along with the COG, have hired an attorney to help with FERC relicensing. We are getting down to the wire on the relicensing of the hydroelectric facilities along the Connecticut River. I don't know I guess if people want more information on that, we could bring it to the next council meeting and have Peggy or Greg, maybe someone from Gill, could help us with such a presentation. So if you're interested in that, please let me know. Our Partnership for Youth is busy. They have done, they've conducted their annual teen health survey. They just did an Advancing Racial Justice in Schools document. Their parenting guide was recently published in the Recorder. And I'm going to talk more about transportation later on in the evening, so I will not talk about transportation now. Done.
Nice job, Linda.
Trevor.
Questions, Dan?
Linda Stan Garland from Burleson. On the radios that communication system, excuse me. Has there been any talk about helping towns purchase repeaters for their fire trucks or their police cars?
Yeah, we've been talking about that with EOTS, especially in areas where there are pretty serious coverage gaps. The system hasn't fully been transitioned to the digital system. It will be about a year before that happens, Stan. So EOTS is a little hesitant to encourage communities to spend a whole lot of money, and they are also just not really interested in spending their money right now until they see how the system is going to work once it's completely done. That doesn't help us in the short term, so we meet monthly with them and discuss what options are to make the coverage better in the short term that could then be also used long term. So I don't have a good answer, except that we know of the issue and we're working on it.
Because we have buildings in the town of Burleson that we cannot get communications inside the buildings once they get inside. And they have used a repeater before, and that allows them to get the communications. But these things are like $14,000 a piece.
Yeah.
And if you're going to put it in a police car, you got to put it in all your police cars. So that can, if you got 4 vehicles, that adds up.
Yeah.
Fire vehicles as well. So anything that you can do to help us would appreciate it.
Yep.
Yeah,
We did
just
also
fire-
ask for a federal earmark for pagers, which if earmarks survive the election, the upcoming election, that we do have some significant federal money coming in. So maybe we can look into how to spend that money to include repeaters. I'm not sure. We can look.
Yeah.
Bill
Just to
Furman?
clarify a little bit, there are 2 types of repeaters. One
Yep.
is outside, covers an area. The second is an in-vehicle repeater, which Stan, you're talking about.
Yes.
And that would be for individual cars or trucks and to allow for in-building communication.
Thank you. Moving on to our planning board update, Emily Johnson.
Emily Johnson, Regional Planning Board Rep and Deerfield resident. So I just have a couple of updates. Last meeting, we talked, Jessica Atwood spoke about some really great brownfield projects. She is resubmitting a grant in November. And so if folks have brownfields in their town that aren't already on her list, or if you're not sure if they're on her list, then you can contact her just to make sure that she's aware of those for redevelopment. There is also a series of citizen planner training collaborative workshops between now and January. It's 10 workshops. CPTC is the acronym. If you Google search masscptc.org, you should find those workshops. It's a variety of things, creating master plans, special permits and variances, zoning with overlay districts. So if you're interested, I have a couple of the flyers here, and we can provide more information for that. Our next meeting is November 3rd. Some of the larger topics we'll be talking about is a solid waste management update and discussion of the Griffin County Outdoor Recreation Plan and age and dementia friendly transportation.
Thank you very much. Our finance committee update, fiscal review report.
The finance committee did meet to review the fiscal review, which you have in front of you, I hope. And because Claire did all the work, then I turn it over to her to explain it.
Thank you, Claire.
Thank you, Michelle. Good evening to all. I am Claire, the Director of Finance for the Franklin Regional Council of Governments. Also, this report are to summarize the agency's financial status, specifically detailing the year just ended. You want to switch to the next slide? The format and content have evolved over the 10 years that the finance director and executive director have been doing this. It has become more visual. We're using graphs more to illustrate size and trends. And there's less information about specific programs because that information is available in so many other formats, like your updates, like these council updates, like the annual report, and the many, many reports that other program managers in the agency put out. So there's less in here now about programmatic work that we're doing than there used to be. But that information is in other publications.
Hey, Claire, I'm having trouble hearing you, so you're going to have to scream when you want me to advance the slide.
Okay. Okay.
Next slide.
Thank you.
And this also begins the process of developing the next year's budget and provides a background of information for counselors as they prepare themselves for that vote in January. The budget development calendar, which is a series of meetings in which priorities, trends of expense, and increases to each section are reviewed. These series of meetings will talk about all of those things. That's on page 1, and it sort of tells you the date. If you choose to participate in any of those meetings, and they're all open, you don't have to be on a committee that's meeting to attend and either learn more or offer your inputs. The following 2 pages of the report provide a summary of the COG's work, and we expect that is most useful to new council members. Then on page 4, we get into the numbers. In the 9-year history of revenue shown in this graph, the most striking feature is the spike in FY21, which was the result of a $2 million grant for the radios that you were all just talking about for the communication system. The COG passed that equipment and the value of that equipment through to all the 60 unit members that use those radios. FY 22, spike of smaller nature for the same purpose, that was about $1 million in FY 22. So we expect this is part of a downward ramp back to normal, where the COG will have between $8 and $9 million a year in revenue. The orange line that runs sideways across the vertical bars defines the council budget, that portion of our work which is under your council review. This encompasses the fee-for-service programs like accounting, collective purchasing, and cooperative inspections, and of course, all of our administrative functions as well.
Next slide.
There we go. This graphic is from page 5 of your report. It's a blow up of the lowest section of the last chart that we looked at, total revenues. The original assessment is the amount that we ask each town and one city to pay annually to support our work. We expect to be able to hold FY 24 assessments very steady again with a 0 to 1% increase anticipated. We expect to be internally focused for the rest of FY 23 and FY 24 to organize ourselves for future years and to build on our strengths. At this point, Linda, do you want to jump in there?
Yeah, I think we've talked about this at several council meetings. We're in the midst of a succession planning effort, which is a multi-year and multi-phase effort to prepare for the departure of long-time upper management positions and long-time middle management in all areas of the council. We expect retirements and departures to begin in the next year and to continue on in a regular interval because we're all about the same age. So we've formed a reorganization advisory committee to look at how the COG could be structured better to prepare for our future. We're envisioning the creation of 2 deputy director positions, so a 3-member upper management team instead of a 5-member team, which is what we currently have, but we'll still need some high-level department oversight. And we're working to make this change so that there is no increase in the overall admin budget, but it could take some time to do that. And we also see the need to build money in for an overlap between outgoing long-term staff and incoming new staff. So we likely will work with the finance department and we'll be asking the finance committee to consider use of some of the undesignated fund balance that we've been carefully stewarding away for the last 25 years to really help us through this succession process. So we'll work on that and report back more in January.
Thank you.
Any questions? I do forget to look up. I'm a nervous speaker, so
Okay.
just interrupt me if somebody's got a hand up or there's a question in the room.
Yep.
The next chart I'd like to talk about is the exploded pie on page 6. This describes the categories of our fund balance and retained earnings without the OPEB trust. Our general fund balance is about 1.5 million, and that's the purple slice on the left, which it gets exploded out to show you the categories on the right, undesignated being the largest, capital reserve the second largest, and then the salary and recruitment reserve. This is comparable to your town's free cash and stabilization. If you wanted to dig further into these numbers, for example, to understand what's in the municipal fee for services balance, those numbers are on page 28. Next slide, Linda. Now we switch from summary consideration of the full financial picture of the COG to considering the sections you see in pages 7 through 12. And we switch to talking about expense budgets and expense reporting. So far, we've been talking about revenues and fund balances. All the administrative expenses of our organization are brought together in the general fund, summarized on page 7. FY23 budget appears to be well situated in comparison to our FY22 actual spending experience. This budget funds 8.5 full-time equivalency of employees with all their related expenses, all of the benefits, both in time off and insurances for all staff of the COG. Supplies, information technology, office space, rent, staff training, all our agency insurances like general liability and workers' comp, our legal counsel, and many more smaller categories of administrative expense. The executive committee is also funded here. Expenses related to retirees from both the FRCOG and the former county are also here. Any detailed questions? Because this is, it's actually sections of the budget that are on pages 8 through 12. I'm happy to take your questions on those charts. Seeing none, I'm going to bump us up to page 14, where we begin a review of the municipal fee-for-service programs. Collective purchasing is up first. This is a popular resource with reach and reputation well beyond Franklin County. This budget funds 2 staff people. All of their benefits are cross-billed to this budget. And also, just a comment, it's getting really small up on the screen, so please do use your report, particularly if you're at home. Questions about the collective purchasing actuals for budget for FY23? Yeah.
So just as a matter of program policy, how do you have lots of members, some of them are your core members and some of them are other communities, and that's part of what's allowed us to expand capacity, so that's a good thing, I think. But do you have a set of decisional criteria relative to if you're doing a special procurement project for our members first in line, so to speak, when we need an ad hoc procurement done relative to Franklin County members, relative to other community members?
I don't know that answer. Do you, Bob?
Yes.
That is okay. Great. I don't need to know how. I just want to know that we have that right to access. Thank you.
Yes.
Yes.
Great. Anything else? Next slide, Linda. The cooperative public health chart is on the next page. This has 15 towns participating, and this budget funds 2.5 people. Seeing no questions, we move on to town accounting, which is 12 towns in 2 counties. It's really 11 in Franklin and 1 in Hampshire, to be specific. Equivalency of 4.3 full-time people, full-time equivalents, is actually 7 people with various schedules that provide services to these 12 towns. Cooperative inspections is on the next page, and that is 16 towns participate. The program funds 8 people, 6 fully in the program, and then some managerial and finance support from 2 others. We're going to be so done so fast. Emergency communication system, FCECS. There are roughly 60 member departments, as we mentioned earlier. And you're bound to notice that the actual is much lower than budget. FY21 and 22 had very low capital needs in either equipment replacement or decommissioning. So those amounts that are unspent carry forward and become the capital resource for when we do eventually have a very large decommissioning expense and or we need to repair something major to keep the system running. So that is how that works. Any questions? The regional emergency response budget is on page 19. This is the fund that we created through our work with the COVID vaccination clinics in FY21. The following year, we were paid by the medical insurance of those people that got vaccinated. That money is accounted for separately so that the agency can fund work in a future emergency affecting the region. The balance in that fund is $217,000 and is now established as a reserve for future emergency communications, logistics, or planning. Each year we hope to do an original budget that would allow us to launch an effort in response to a new emergency while we convene the council to review and approve additional funding that might be needed specific to that situation. Any questions there? Wow, done. Of course, any questions that come up, if you haven't spent time with the report and you do eventually, do just let me know. My email is here on the slide, and hopefully it's somewhere in the report. But you know how to reach me through Linda or anyone else. I want to thank Mark Maloney, who does the layout and editing. Andrew Woods took the cover photo this year. And Linda, the Lindas help with content, and of course, committee members that are involved throughout the year in our finances.
Quick question, Claire, on the OPEB projection on page 22.
Yes.
What was the date of these projections? When were they done?
Fund balance is based on our June 30 ending. The projection of liability was done based on a July 1 census of employees and retirees.
Any other questions? Great groundwork, you know, yeah, there's a lot of work goes into this to have a very few questions. Oh, you have a hand up. We have a hand up. Anybody? Oh, somebody's answering the door.
Good.
Well, thank you so much, Claire.
You're welcome.
And Michelle, for your report. Linda, we're moving on to the fun part of the meeting.
We are. I'm gonna share my screen again. Can everyone see that?
Yes.
Okay, so oftentimes at the COG, we forget to take the time to celebrate our accomplishments, and we forget to look back and remember the work that we do. I hope that you all saw the email that we lost one of our team members, Maureen Mullaney, a few weeks ago. And her death is a really terrible reason to look back, and yet it's also a really fitting reason. Maureen worked as the transportation program manager since 1993. I will get through this 1 second. And so I wanted you to just remember all the work that we do and all the work that the COG team that Maureen is a part of and will always be a part of has done. So, except that my slide is not moving. Hold on. That's because it needed my time to calm down. So let me start with roads and bridges. So, anybody know, where is this?
Oh, yeah.
Outside.
Yes, it's outside. This is the Greenfield Community College roundabout. This was the first roundabout in Massachusetts. It was the first roundabout in Franklin County, and it came about because Maureen and I hired a guy from Scotland, and he really liked roundabouts, and he brought roundabouts to Massachusetts. So whether you love them or hate them, you can blame Keith Wilson, Maureen Mullaney, and Linda Dunleavy for roundabouts.
Love them.
This is the Rotary. The Rotary was actually for a very long time our most dangerous intersection in Franklin County, but we worked with MassDOT to really change the lane markings so that the Rotary acts more like a roundabout, and it is no longer the most dangerous intersection in Franklin County. This is the Gil Montague Bridge, a major rehab project. Remember when we had netting to keep debris from falling on boaters and pedestrians? This was a $25 million project that we spent years gathering the funding for. Here's Route 2 before the realignment. Here's Route 2 after the realignment. This is a rendering of what is happening at the French King Bridge now with suicide barriers being put up. This was a big project of Maureen's to get MassDOT to do this project, work closely with the towns of Gill and Irving on this. Tom Feidenkevitz, where's this?
116, right the path where someone died, unfortunately.
Exactly, because sometimes small improvements can make a big difference. This was simply a road treatment signage and a speed monitor that has significantly increased safety in this active pedestrian area.
Yes, it did.
This is the intersection of Coleraine Shelburne Road and Route 2, where we reduced the vertical alignment, the hill, and the horizontal alignment to make the sight distance for travelers safer and more extensive. This is where, West County people?
Mohawk Trail.
Yeah.
Going up the mountain.
This is going up the mountain. There was not enough roadway to add a full second travel lane, but we were able to widen the shoulder going up the mountain so slow moving trucks can use it, resulting in faster vehicles being able to stay in their travel lane, greatly increasing safety in an area where we didn't have much option. And this is 116 in Sunderland, 116 and 47. This was a major intersection project to get rid of some slip lanes that were causing a lot of accidents, but also we worked hard to maintain the gardens that make this intersection so pretty. Interestingly, we've been at the COG long enough that now this intersection is being reconsidered again, and it may become a roundabout. And we're currently working with town officials to see if that is the best treatment for this intersection. We also do a lot with buses and rails. We've recognized for a long time that Franklin County had a better public transit system when we had electric trolleys than it does now. And we've been always searching for how we can improve public transportation. One big thing was building the building that you're in so that we could have an intermodal transit facility instead of being outside of Greenfield City Hall. And one of the great things that we've done, thanks to some help from Joe Comerford, is we created FRTA Access. The FRTA is now a leading microtransit delivery server in Massachusetts. This is basically combining the best of a fixed route bus system as well as a demand response. And so that we can make sure that the 15 passenger vans are full, people can order a ride and go anywhere they want. Here's the zones that FRT Access did. And we also used part of an earmark from Joe Comerford to make sure that all of these vans have bike racks on them so that it's even more intermodal and can serve a larger area. 2014 saw the return of passenger rail in Franklin County for the first time since 1985. And in 2018, we added the Valley Flyer service. Maureen was responsible for this marketing campaign using money from MassDOT and the Mass Office of Travel and Tourism. And it's you all remember, we've talked about this. The Valley Flyer service is a pilot service. MassDOT gave us very aggressive ridership numbers to meet that we are meeting, so that there is hope that this will be permanent service for Franklin County. We're not done. We work on bikeways too, and sidewalks and trails. Anyone know where this is? You will not know because it's now part of this. This is the path leading to the Green River swimming area. Maureen's very first project was designing and building a 40-mile Franklin County bikeway that included the rehab of this bridge. And when she was pregnant with her first son, she was like, let's go walk across that bridge. I made it about 15 feet and Maureen just kept going until I begged her to come back. The Franklin County Bikeway, oh, let me keep giving you pretty pictures first. So This is East Mineral Road connecting Irving and Montague, which is now this. And this is in Montague, and we have no before pictures. Do you know why? Because this is the bridge that fell in when the railroad was trying to lower the tracks to double track rail cars. So this is now a pedestrian and bike bridge on Greenfield Road in Montague. We also have made Franklin County bikeway signs, which include a topography map of what kind of ride you're getting into. We have created more shared straights and lanes, and we've created more signage. We had a grant where we could offer bike racks to any town that wanted, and 11 towns participated, 54 bike racks and 189 new parking spots. And we did a bike safety campaign. And the Franklin County Bikeway is now 289 miles of on-road and off-road bike path. We are also working with a number of towns on complete streets projects to make pedestrian facilities safer and to add sidewalks and crosswalks. We are working on trails to make sure that our trail system is well mapped out and is safe. And then we're not done. We also received funding that we were able to rehabilitate the Shelburne Falls trolley car. We helped build the Greenfield Energy Park. We have electric charging stations throughout Franklin County. We've done stormwater filtering systems to filter gross road runoff before it hits storm drains. We've built park and ride lots in Charlemont and Greenfield and Whately. And we are now working on doing a major culvert assessment throughout Franklin County. We have analyzed and assessed all of the culverts in 9 towns and working on the 10th town now. And we try to encourage people to think about things to do other than drive their car. This is Parking Day, where we talked about and showed all of the alternatives to the single occupant vehicle. And we're still not done. We also work on tourism and economic development with our transportation money. This is the 7 scenic byways in Western Massachusetts. 5 of them are legislatively designated in Franklin County. Maureen was responsible for the marketing campaign that created these beautiful signs that you see throughout Western Mass. And we've also been able to use scenic byway money to protect sites like this and like this. And we're not done yet. We also use transportation money to move information, not just people and goods. This is the first project in the country to use the interstate right-of-way to put telecommunications and fiber along the length of Interstate 91 from Connecticut to Vermont, and it now acts as the backbone for the last mile solution throughout Western Massachusetts. And that is what Maureen Mullaney did. Whew, okay. I made it through.
That's really
Mr.
special.
Chair,
Yes, please, Tom.
actually, that's not all she did. Linda. You missed so many programs. She helped us so much in our town.
Yeah,
Mr. Chair,
thank you. It's.
I didn't hear what you said, Tom.
that's good.
Now,
But what I tried to say, Linda, is that that's not all she did. She made many personal friendships. I don't ever remember her saying no to anything we ever asked for, which is very, very unusual. And those are the major accomplishments, but I think it's all the little accomplishments in our town that really made a difference.
I think this is, this is really special. This night that we're thinking about Maureen and we're celebrating Bill's, soon to retire. And, coming from my seat, I didn't know Maureen. I'm just meeting Bill, we're just starting to know Bill from the last couple of years, and there is, we're doing this assessment of FRCOG and how we're transitioning as an organization and keeping all the things just shown in that slideshow and all the other things that we've done in the past and moving forward and thinking about how are we going to serve all of our towns and our county and region in the future. It's pretty special to be kind of where I am with not knowing. I just felt like I got to know a small portion of Maureen, and I didn't get a chance to spend time with her and do projects with her because I'm new to all of this. And there's other members that are joining that haven't had that pleasure too, but we learn from Bill and from Maureen and Linda and all the others that that have made this their life calling of public service and bringing these projects to make differences in people's lives that have no idea what FRCOG is in this county. They've never heard of it, or don't know anything about it, but they know their lives are better. They use things that we do or that we make impacts on. They use it every day, and they just sometimes they don't have a clue. But those that do know the really important work we do, and those. And I think your comment earlier, Marguerite, of just a comment of listening to the younger generation coming in, and also the younger generation listening to people who have been here for 30 years and what they have learned and what they can instill in us to carry forward. So I think it's kind of a special time that we're in right now. Anybody else want to say a few words? Linda, do you want to have a few words about Bill's retirement?
Yep, I'm gonna share my screen again. Hold on. So now we're turning to thanking Bill Pearlman for his 25 years plus of dedicated service. I put 25 because the COG is 25 years old, but I know it's been longer than 25. This is Bill's last council meeting. It is not his last meeting with the COG because he's chair of personnel and also has 2 more at least executive committee meetings. So, come on now. Why does it keep doing that? There we go. So starting with Bill's service to Ashfield, Bill sat on the select board for 15 years, was a sewer commission for 4 years, and he may tell you that wasn't his most favored position. And then he has long been engaged in emergency response in a variety of roles for the town of Ashfield. And it was in his first municipal role where he got first engaged with the COG as a representative to the Franklin Regional Planning Board. He was, I believe that Bill has been on the COG Executive Committee for the full 25 years that the COG has been in existence. It started as a planning board rep. Emily, look at your future. And then he was a council appointment and then has had 5 terms as a regionally elected member to the executive committee. He has been the chair of the personnel committee for at least 17 years, and he is a fierce advocate for our staff. He recognizes and will always be the first to say that the staff is the greatest asset of the Franklin Regional Council of Governments, and that by honoring them, we protect the value of the COG. And he has also been a careful steward of our personnel policy to make sure that it is fair and clear and equitable to all of our staff. He has sat on the Franklin County Emergency Communication System Committee Oversight Committee for a long time, at least 10 years, maybe longer, and has been really a close monitor to make sure that system can hold up to what it needs to do until we are able to completely decommission it. And I forgot to tell you that in his role on the executive committee, we counted that he has been involved in 47 county road actions, 25 budgets, countless other issues, and likely thousands of meetings over the time. The list is not done. He also has been on the representative to the Transportation Planning Organization for at least 10 years and now probably knows as many of the silly and extensive transportation acronyms as I do. He was on our Pipeline Advisory Committee. He is most recently been helping me on the Organizational Restructuring Advisory Committee and the Economic Development District Board. And I put this one on here because Bill will also read every document that we send to him, every single one. And he particularly likes the economic development documents, I think because it has so much data and charts and statistics. And then when he wasn't helping the COG, he was doing other things for Franklin County. He was the representative to Shelburne Control for 3 years. He was the municipal representative to the Western Region Homeland Security Advisory Council for 4 years. And you can see all of the work he did with the Homeland Security Council. He worked as a MEMA Emergency Manager Advisory Committee member. And for the last 16 years has lived in his hearse during the duration of the Cummington Fair while he managed all of the vendors at the Cummington Fair. And Bill, the plan is to give you a doorknob. Oops. Sorry. The plan is to give you a doorknob, but I got COVID and I wasn't able to bring it to my woodworking friend. It's sitting in my dining room, ready to be mounted on a beautiful piece of walnut that I picked out. You'll get it before December. So with that, Bill, thank you.
The new people know that the reason why Linda's offering Bill a doorknob is that when we left the courthouse and the courthouse was renovated, all the doorknobs on there say County of Franklin on them. And so we took a number of them with us and
all of them.
I'm trying to downplay that part.
It was my crowning achievement of my career.
But I'm 75, the council is 25, which means that I've put in basically a third of my life here. And it's one of the better things that I've ever done.
Before, Bill, you sum it all up, I have a couple of words I'd like to share with you. If that's all right. I mean, it's certainly, Bill, I think it's better to be given a doorknob than shown the door. I've been so pleased to spend so many years with you. You know, Bill Proman, Ellen McKay, and I are the only council members remaining who were here when the COG was created in 1997. And for several years prior to that, engaged in the work of the third and only successful charter commission to pose an alternative to a 300-year-old form of government that principally served Boston's interest in a regional administrative oversight of jails, courthouses, and registries. So Bill, now is your last chance to misrepresent any part of that history. Elle and I will keep your counsel.
Well,
as Linda mentioned, many of you know that Bill is the superintendent of concessions, but make no mistake, that's only at Cummington Fair. He's not the guy to see about concessions from what's important, the fundamental right to organize, to be heard, whether it's for civil rights, environmental protection, small town government needs, or the cohesive expression of the concern of the 72,000 citizens in the 725 square mile community of Franklin County that we share. As Linda has summarized, Bill's has never been a spare plate for our greater community. Unfortunately, with my sling and with my arm in a sling for a while, Yet not even a subpoena would be able to get me into my deep files from the years we shared. We do have some remaining executive committee meetings ahead to share more particular recollections, though some of our conversations, and everybody around this table has had those conversations in the parking lot after meetings that you remember for years. We've got a few of those, I imagine. But briefly, I can tell you now that working with Bill over 25 years ago to create the COG, and for the last 6 as the other regionally elected executive committee member, there's no one more challenging to work with. I mean that in the best possible way. With Bill, you engage with a guy who does his homework, who knows his stuff, is as sure of his ethics as anyone, speaks from fact, which is so important, and brings the force of his unique experience, unlimited curiosity, and knowledge of how the made world works through a lens of creative humor and an abiding care for our mission. The challenge really is to keep up. I've so valued your leadership and friendship, Bill. We've greatly benefited from your work with so many elements of the Council of Governments and among so many communities of interest in Franklin County. We all recognize that we've been served by a colleague who reflects upon the admission of the great philosopher, Professor Irwin Corey. If we don't change direction soon, we'll end up where we're going. Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Bill, for always keeping your eyes on the prize.
It's been an honor to work with everybody. There's a lot of people that I will never forget. I will have memories of, and some of them even fairly pleasant. And whether we've agreed or not, what we have in common is a desire to see our region prosper and the people in it prosper. We suggest different paths occasionally, but we are all headed in the same direction. And again, working with the staff, and I need to constantly remind everybody that that's how and why we are where we are, and that's how we grew from the beginning to an amazing organization now. That it's been a pleasure and an honor to work with everybody here. I'm gonna miss it.
What are the French 75s?
Don't have a doorknob for you today, Bill, but we do have a cake.
Okay, where is she? There she is. Let me just briefly introduce my wife who's standing back there. With the camera.
I'm very proud.
Well.
Ellen, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, Bill, it has been an honor to work with you all these years. I have watched you and been in awe of you and of everything you do for this organization. And I frankly don't think we're ever going to be able to replace you and what you did.
Well,
Thank you.
don't get too complimentary. My
Mr. Chair,
wife does not want me to have the size of the head of a. So,
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to adjourn so that we can attend to other festivities.
Yes. Second. We have a second. All those in favor?
all right.
Aye. Thank you very much.